Council meeting for July 15th, 2024. The time is 7 p.m. Opening prayer, Jane.
Okay, if we can rise. Tonight I'm going to share a prayer that I've recited here multiple times before meetings, but I think it's appropriate tonight as we move towards what we'll certainly have, a meeting that will certainly have different opinions, but more fitting after the actions this past Saturday in Pennsylvania. A prayer for unity. Let us pray. God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to each listen politely as others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole rather than individuals. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room and this great nation as we work together on our shared mission. Before we begin this meeting tonight, I ask that we all take a moment of silence for Chief Corey Compatore, Buffalo Township Volunteer Fire Department in Pennsylvania. Corey died as a hero, shielding his family during Saturday's assassination attempt on former President Trump. A moment of silence, please. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And would you please call the roll?
Member Feaster?
Yes, here.
Member Warren?
Here.
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Wyrick?
Here.
Member Owens? Member Orr?
Here.
Member Matheny?
Here.
7 present.
Can you speak up a little bit when you talk?
Yes, sir.
Read the three.
At this time, members of the public who have signed up to address City Council will be called to do so. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes. Speakers will be called in the order they signed up. During this section, comments shall be limited to legislative items appearing on this meeting's agenda. The rules for speaking and the speaker's time will appear on the screens. After you have finished speaking, please remain at the podium to answer questions from the officials at the dais. This will serve as the final warning for all speakers. Any violation of the rules will result in ejection from the premises.
Thank you, Liam. Okay, so I will go through a couple of housekeeping issues tonight. So we have 21 people signed up to speak tonight. So I want to emphasize that this is an agenda-only meeting. So please keep strictly to it being an agenda item only, please. So with that being said, first up we have Jolene Gonzalez.
Thanks for affording me the opportunity to address you all. I debated making any comments tonight based on how disheartening it was.
Point of order. Name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jolene Gonzalez, 332 Portage Street. Debated making comments tonight based on how disheartening it was to hear from others who were here on July 1st meeting and also saw it recorded on playback. Attendants were treated less than professionally when concerns were expressed to the council, and I'm taking this moment to highlight the disrespect shown, often through facial expressions and body language by certain council members. Not only of those who have left recently. You are all elected, not guaranteed. Your behavior should reflect that basic level of humility that comes with that knowledge. Now, the outsourcing of the dispatch is not just a concern with regards to quality of service. There are plenty of reasons to be uncomfortable with this change, which I have no doubt others are going to cover in their remarks. Personally, I'm taking the remaining minutes of my time to express to you all this evening that this matter shouldn't be decided by the handful of you sitting in front of us. This is a matter that citizens should formally have an opportunity to decide on through whatever means, including a vote. This change, which we can't take back, involves not only our funding allotted to you for expenditures, but also our further care. This is no small issue to the majority of North Canton citizens. The track record of how the city leadership has used our tax dollars in recent years, and therefore has put us in an urgent need to trim the fat, with reducing service costs as one option as we're discussing tonight, in my opinion, doesn't warrant an assumption that this collective council is trusted to make the right decisions to reflect our best interests at this point as the citizens of North Canton. You can either take this humbly, as I hope, and consider how the citizens feel, or continue to dig your heels as some have, deeper, and lose the confidence of the community even more. I have heard from both those who don't support the outsourcing and a handful who really didn't care because, quite frankly, they didn't even know this was happening. But the united idea amongst all sides was that the trust once blindly given to the City Council is no longer, and that the city residents should decide this matter. I'm confident you will continue to hear the same themed response with regards to many financial decisions you will make on your own going forward. I'm asking, along with many others, that this vote be delayed and a method to reach decision, which includes the taxpayers' input, be utilized. May I suggest the March 2025 ballot being a valid option? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Joe? All right, moving on. Next up, we have Kathy Hipp. I will remind you, when you're done speaking, please stay at the podium for redress, if possible.
My name is Kathy Hipp. I live at 148 Fairhart.
We couldn't hear you.
I live at 148 Fairhart Avenue Southeast. How many of you know where Fairhart is? Okay, a couple. I'm impressed. Mrs. Owens, you know where Fairhart is? Fairhart is an alley. There's 2 houses on it. It's actually a dedicated street now, and it's awful now because the last city administrator who ruined it last year, but that's beside the point. But in the North Canton City, there are many alleys. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there are a lot. And if a call goes out from an alley address, whether it be Fairhart or Aiden Way, some of the people will not know where that is, but our dispatchers know because they've been doing this long enough. If the call goes out and it goes to Jackson Township, are they going to know where any of the alleys are in North Canton? No, they aren't. I've had to call the police. I've had to call the EMS. And it's a comfort to know that the right people are going to get to my house or to any of the houses in the city of North Canton. People move to this city because of the schools and because of the emergency services. And you are putting these emergency services in jeopardy because you are taking out the first line, the dispatchers. You just talked about the policemen, or the firemen, in Pennsylvania. Well, why are you going to put our firemen, policemen, and EMS people in jeopardy by sourcing out the dispatch to the Red Center? Mr. Wilder's not here tonight, which is really disappointing, but I'm going to say what I had to say to him anyway. Mr. Wilder must forget where he came from, where he started. He was a patrolman. He was backed by the dispatchers of this city for many years until he moved up and he didn't need the dispatchers anymore. And now he's willing to throw them to the wind. That's a shame. That is a real shame. Regardless of what happens tonight, well, no, that's not what I want to say. First, if you decide that getting rid of the dispatchers is the way you're going to go, do not look at me for support for your fire levy. Do not look at my neighbors for support of your fire levy because you are taking away a very important part of our safety forces. Regardless of how this goes tonight, whether it goes to vote or not, I want to thank all of the dispatchers who helped keep my husband safe for 33 years while he worked as a North Canton police officer. Whether they kept him safe, like Kathy Miller, or for the ones who fed him, like Holly Webb, or the ones who were there to keep him safe, like Stacy Petrie. I want to thank them, and we are grateful for what you did for us, whether these people here are grateful or not.
Thank you.
Comments, questions?
Do you know how 911 works?
Yes. Yeah, I know a 911 call goes done first, but when it comes here,
Right, from Stark County
Yes.
to here. Right.
it comes here, and it's our dispatchers who know where the streets are, who people are involved. I have a neighbor who's had to use medical services many times.
I've had to use it many times, and thank you. Just curious. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Katie Lee.
I'm sorry.
Katie Lee. L-E-I-G-H.
Katie Lee, 534 Pershing Avenue Southeast. Public speaking is not my forte. I can already feel that I'm turning red. I just wanted to say by nature, I'm an introvert. I never intended to speak out on this topic, but then I did come to the realization that I can't continue to have opinions on the actions of City Council if I'm not willing to step out of my comfort zone to advocate for our city. I've read the committee of the whole transcripts, the meeting transcripts, and the repository articles that talk about the topic of outsourcing dispatch. I'm in agreement that the city needs to cut the budget. I'm in agreement that designing specific positions such as the public safety analyst and administrative assistant for the police force could make sense. I'm not yet convinced that outsourcing dispatch is the city's only avenue to make this happen. Ms. Warren had a comment in the Canton repository article published on June 6th that said cutting more than $416,000 from the annual budget would give the city more credibility with voters without cutting the quality of emergency response if the city asks for higher taxes to help pay for a planned $14 million fire station. I can only speak for myself, but I would speculate voters aren't as concerned about the projected $416,000 in savings as they are the $2.9 million expenditure for 1200 North Main Street. It seems that overall as a council, you have not agreed on what this outsourcing actually means to the bottom line. It is also concerning that Police Chief Kemp and Fire Chief Kramer wrote letters opposing the change as well. To clarify my stance with the information currently available to me, I don't agree with outsourcing dispatch. As a council, I know you will never appease everyone with your decisions. I just hope that you have truly considered what is best for the people in the city of North Canton each time you have voted on this topic. Because at the end of the day, it's about the people you've been elected to serve and protect. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, questions for Katie? Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Chuck Osborne. Does anybody see Chuck here?
I don't think he's coming.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Next up, we have Elaine Chikansky. Chikansky? Yeah, sorry.
Elaine Chikansky, 1209 Gressner Avenue Southeast. Elaine Chikansky, 1209 Gressner Street Southeast. This is my first time speaking out there at a meeting. A little nervous. I felt compelled, after discussing this issue with a neighbor, she made me see how important it is. I've been following it in the newspaper. I personally have used the dispatch here for fire, medics, and police. And every time, the dispatchers that I had stayed with me on the line when it was necessary until help arrived. And that was such a comfort. And I knew that they knew where I was. I knew that they understood the situation. I just feel because they are right here in our city, they have a better handle on the residents here. I don't want to see this being changed. I think people move to North Canton, but it's been said, for the school system, my grandchildren went through the school system. I've had, as I said, several options to use fire, police, medic, and I think it's just what the city's residents want is to be feeling safe and secure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Thank you. Okay. Next up, Brad.
Administration, City Council members.
Address, name and address, Brad.
Brad Davis, 1678 Meadow Lane Drive, Southeast. I should remember. I want to express my understanding of the difficult decisions you face by running our city. It's clear that managing North Canton is akin to managing a business, where tough choices often come with financial implications. The recent decision by our citizens not to pass the 1/2 income tax underscores this reality. In times like this, emotions can indeed have financial consequences. As we confront our current physical situation, the bottom line will inevitably shape the fate of our critical services such as dispatchers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions? Thanks, Brad. Next up, we have Mary Beth Avon? Gotcha.
Mary Beth Avenue, 224 Weber.
I'm so sorry. I cannot hear you at all. You're going to speak up.
I'm sorry. Mary Beth Avenue, 224 Weber Avenue Northeast. I've lived in the city for 50 years and I've never been as discouraged as I have been in the last several years about the disconnect between the city residents and the city council and the mayor who are running our city. My family has used police and EMS quite often. When my mother was ill, I was in the police department explorers when I started back in the early 80s. I know things have changed. One of the reasons that it has always been wonderful to live in the city of North Canton is we do have excellent city services that are very responsive, that are able to do little things as bigger city police departments are not able to do. I think if we look at sourcing this out, we'll never get it back. We give up little things, we're going to be expected to get more in the future. As for myself, my feeling is that looking at some of the numbers that have been thrown around for savings, is that I know we're looking at big financial issues with dog and pole. I never used dog and pole, but I want my police department to have good dispatching, my EMS to have good dispatching, more so than pole. So I know you guys have balanced budgets, looking at different things, and maybe, but not everybody's going to be happy, but for me, I would get more use out of dispatching than a pole. So those are some of the issues, but I just think it's a disservice to our city residents that we look at this being a way of trying to cut the costs of outsourcing into the county when they have no vested interest in our city itself.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Thank you. Okay. Next up, Larry Tripp.
Can't hear very well.
It's okay.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple Street, North Canton, Ohio. First of all, I'm dead set against destroying the city dispatch center. My wife and I have each used it once the past 8 months. Excellent service, excellent service. And my speech tonight is basically a summary of what has brought us up to tonight. Reality cannot be ignored except at a price. And the longer reality exists, the higher and more terrible becomes the price that must be paid. Yes, reality, which has existed in North Canton government for some time, is finally showing its ugly face to the public. Reality can come in many ways. Misinformation being given when discussing legislation, financial problems, poor personnel selection, elected or otherwise, or just poor government. Again, I am very much opposed to dismantling of the city emergency dispatch center. Government has essentially become a big business, with North Canton being no exception. When big business or corporations make a major decision, they generally have a backup plan. What are the city's plans when dismantling of the city dispatch proves to be unsuccessful? You don't have any, because once it's gone, it's gone. Remember, not long ago, when discussing legislation, and the old saying among council personnel was, let's try it. We can always review it and correct it later. No, you can't. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's my understanding you initiated a summary on dispatch personnel, a survey on dispatch personnel. Was this same survey used on personnel in the finance and administrative departments? If not, why not? Here is reality on the financial payrolls within the two departments as supplied to me by the finance director. Our administration office has 7 employees with combined annual salaries of $489,680. And the finance department with 7 employees with combined annual salaries of $590,000. This on top of some of their functions being outsourced or use of consultant advisors in their decision-making process, which is very costly to the city. Also take a look at the personnel regulations, which was briefly discussed at the council meeting of July the 1st. Here I see 4 suggested new positions totaling $363,892. At present, they are not filled positions, but in a heartbeat, they could be. Yet, we hear of big savings in dismantling the dispatch. Some councils say my feelings, and perhaps others, are too emotional of the situation involving dispatch centers. This may be true, and if so, I'm very happy to be emotional. In closing, we have one council person whose main objective for the past 10 years or so was having equal gender within the ranks of city council. I'm fine with that, and I'm sure many other citizens are also. However, reality hit home during the last election with the help of other council members and the mayor. Their selection is proving not for the betterment of the city, but one that could hurt in more ways than one. 4 voting council members and the mayor destroying our dispatch center, a vital component of our safety forces. I might add, destroying progress within the city. Within the city is a reality too, with the likely defeat of Groton Street and new EMS facilities levies. Thank you, Councilman Warren, Owens, and Matheny for your, right now, as I know, voting for this amendment. And thanks for destroying the city. North Canton, it is only proving, once again, government in North Canton is not for the people or by the people. Thank you.
Comments, questions for Mr. Chair?
Larry, have you read the proposal on all the information that's been presented to dispatch and the individuals that are
I glanced at, yeah.
Thank you.
But
I just wanted to know.
I have a question of you.
No, I just wanted to know if you read that.
Oh, okay.
You were asking about position. You read the information that changed.
Any other questions?
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Miriam Baumann.
Can you get the microphone ready?
Marion Baughman, 320 River Avenue. Over 25 people walked petitions that specified opposition to ordinance 6024 and support for a referendum if council passes it. Residents in North Canton regard dispatch as part of our safety forces. Residents I talked to are angry about outsourcing dispatch, and I heard over and over that if dispatch is outsourced, residents will not vote for the fire safety levy. Signatures on the petitions include 3 former police chiefs, 2 former assistant fire chiefs, 7 former council members, 2 former city administrators, and several former firefighters, EMS, and police officers. All 726 signatures we obtained were collected in 3 days, and it only takes 800 signatures for a referendum.
Thank you very much, Marion.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next up, Jeff Stocker.
Thank you. Wait a second, I'm missing something.
You skipped the share.
Good evening. Jeff Stocker, S-T-O-C-K-E-R, 1463 Wilbur Drive Northeast here in North Canton. I am rising tonight to express support for Ordinance 602024, which is authorizing Mayor Wilder to enter into a service agreement with the Regional Emergency Dispatch Center for the purpose of providing emergency dispatching services. This spring, when voters very soundly defeated Issue 7, the proposed tax increase designed to fund our city's safety services along with our parks and pool, I believe that they spoke very loudly and very clearly. The council needed to take a second look at the city's finances, prioritize the most important projects, and economize where possible. I believe entering into an agreement with RED represents an opportunity to do all three. I am a very strong supporter of this city's safety services, and I was proud to be selected to join the Citizens Focus Group that was tasked with recommending a funding method for the proposed new fire station. And I'm looking forward to helping city leadership finally get that long overdue fire station that does also consolidate resources and saves money in the long term. So, I do not take lightly the concerns of some residents, I'll say residents, that in their words, outsourcing the city's dispatch will make us less safe. But I also do not take lightly the considerations of our city administration, council members, and our police and fire chiefs. I think it's important to note that on July 1st, the chiefs wrote a second letter, an open letter, to the citizens of North Canton, acknowledging the council is required to balance the city's budget, and in doing so, and I'm quoting their letter, future decisions may have the potential to result in a decrease in the current levels of service. For example, either cuts in staffing or not being able to replace or upgrade needed equipment could impact these levels. In other words, while it would be the chief's preference to keep the dispatch center here, and I am certainly acknowledging that was the point of their first letter, they are practical men, and they recognize that something may have to give and are in support of the city administration and city council in making these difficult decisions. I believe it's also important to note that RED is not some customer service call center that is located in some far-off land, sort of as the word outsource implies. It's an established regional safety center service that's located next door in Jackson Township. And we wouldn't necessarily be talking to someone without knowledge of our city. As I understand it, there would be a better than decent chance that our current dispatchers would be hired at RED. Lastly, I rise to express my support for Council Members Matheny, Owens, Warren, and Wyrick, as they have, I believe, thoughtfully and in good faith, voted to this point for what they believe is in the city's best interests. Along with the other members of council, they have had the opportunity to review the facts and they recognize that a move to RED does not sacrifice our safety while also at the same time being fiscally responsible. A move to RED helps ensure that staffing levels of our safety services remain where they need to be, and we don't sacrifice needed equipment upgrades. I do encourage council to vote yes on ordinance 60-2024. Thank you.
Questions for Jeff? Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Next up, we have Dennis Myers.
Dennis Myers. I live at 605 Glenwood Street Southwest. I'm a retired police lieutenant from the North Canton Police Department. I've worked with Chief Wilder and quite a few of the other gentlemen that are here today. Basically, I am adamant against outsourcing the dispatch center. In the 25 and a half years that I worked there, there were many walk-ins that came in there 24 hours a day. And that wouldn't happen if the dispatch center, the Red Center. People wanting advice, not sure if they need to call the police. Quite frankly, on one occasion, they wanted to talk to me. I was out of town at the time, and it ended up being that they solved a double homicide. There are just numerous occasions that I had a guy, I don't want to give you a bunch of war stories. I did have a guy come in with a chainsaw hooked on his chest, and we laid him down on the floor and called EMS and you couldn't do that with the Red Center. Officer safety, many's the time that I happen to be, like I say, a detective and a lieutenant. Many's the time I went places that you folks would not understand. I've been down in Carroll County on the top of hills by myself out in the middle of nowhere. Interviewing people that were involved in car thefts and different things of that nature, and quite frankly, it was kind of scary. But when I got on the radio, and the people there at North Canton knew what I was doing, and knew what kind of a job I was doing, it made quite a difference. Like I say, officer safety, there is definitely a safety factor involved in having your dispatch right here in North Canton. many's the time that we had a problem that wasn't a police problem. I can remember tornado warnings, stuff like that. We would open up the police department and let people into the shooting range that lived up in the trailer park. Common stuff like that happened all the time. I'm sorry, but I don't think the Red Center would be that concerned. And certainly wouldn't be able to unlock the City Hall for that purpose. Another situation is that I'm originally from Canton. I grew up in Canton. I didn't come to North Canton until I got hired on the police force. I've been here for over 50 years. North Canton is known as a place for excellence. When you talk to people from Canton and all around, they say, you know, North Canton, that's a great place to live. And I think we need to keep it going. And part of that is having dispatch. It's the first line of defense for the police department and the fire department. The other thing that I've got to mention, and this is somewhat negative, is the political aspects of this whole situation. Like I say, I've been around for 50 years. I know that we've had some problems with Canton, we've had some problems with Jackson, and we've had some problems with Plain Township. The political parties or forces that be put the nix on North Canton when they annexed the railroad tracks down here. And you know, they have done that a number of times. So take that into consideration. Jackson Township has not been the kindest people to us as well. And one other question I have is, in reading the plan, I guess it's called, the outline of the option for what we're planning on doing if we outsource dispatch, is that they're possibly going to put in administrative positions to replace the dispatchers. Quite frankly, I don't quite understand why you're taking somewhat power from the police chief or the police department.
I'm
sorry, yeah, sorry, I was trying to keep it
Sorry,
at the
but-
same time.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or if someone wants to respond about the makeup of what we're talking about, or move on, that's up to you guys.
I mean, I'd like to say, we would still, what's being proposed is still having 24-hour coverage at the police station with civilians. So there would still be someone there if someone walks in with, you know, a chainsaw injury, or to find a detective, or if there's a tornado, there will still always be someone in there. Those are the positions you're talking about at the end. And the civilian positions that you're discussing would be to support the police officers, to support Chief Kemp. He would be assigning work to them that he currently cannot assign to the dispatchers. So it would in fact put his sergeants who are doing that work now back out on the road.
Is the question that comes up, is the dispatcher's position a civil service position?
I don't know.
Currently, yes.
Yes.
It is.
Full time.
Now, people that are going to put in.
Can you speak up a little bit? I can't hear you.
The people that you're putting in to the administrative, they're going to be administrative positions, they're not sworn or civil service people. You're putting people that may not have the background and the training that they have at the North Canton dispatch.
I understand that, but I think
To be clear, no training is required to take the civil service exam.
Right.
No training is required to take the civil service
Yeah.
exam.
No. Correct.
That is correct. But at the same time, there is a minimum of
You have to answer, the person that answers the most questions right is the person hypothetically that'll be hired.
Yeah.
I've done the background investigations on people when I was working. Any other questions?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Rick McLaughlin.
Hello, Rick McLaughlin, 1129 Oak Ridge Avenue Southeast. And speak up a little bit. Speak up.
Use the
I
microphone.
can't believe we come to this position right here with you people. 15 years I sat in your spot. 15 years I had to make decisions. This is one I would have said, no way in hell I was going to get rid of. You people have taken the taxpayers' dollars and set them down the drain. There was supposed to be $1 million we made up at the Myers Company, according to Pat Diorio. You go out and you buy city property. You go out and waste things. And you come back and say, we don't have enough money, we got to cut this. You know, we have a cop that was praised here as being a hero. Had he not been at the YMCA in 2 minutes, that kid might not live. And if you call city district, you call the dispatch, how long do you think it's going to take them by the time they relay it, somebody gets here? Where somebody has a heart attack. It's a matter of minutes you need them to come here. And then the mayor comes out and says he wants to cut this, but he wants to keep 7 of the people. Come on, get realistic here. You know, you've got to do your jobs. And you've got a lot of high-class bellhops up there at City Hall. You've got a city administrator to the assistant.
That's a bit
Let's not
ridiculous.
get
Well, I'm just saying, that's money. That's money being wasted. Also, you also advertise a city economic guy, $80,000. If money is so tight, why aren't you putting a freeze on all hiring and everything else right now? You need to do that. The budget, to make the budget right. I mean, you people, I couldn't trust any of you people to manage our money anymore. It's got to the point where it's a joke. And I'm telling you what, I will remember the 4 people who vote yes. And I'm saying this, next September, November is going to remember it too, because this is a serious issue. You've got lives that are on the line, and you people, when the first person dies because our dispatchers didn't get the note over to us, or it's a rainy night and the dispatcher all over Stark County is getting bombarded full of calls and everything else like that. You people don't realize this, it's a serious matter. There's other ways to do it. We have a mayor that loves to go out, shake hands, kiss babies, and get his pictures in the paper. But when it comes to the hard choices to make, he can't make them. And it's about time that we need to look at that. Jamie, you run for mayor, you got my support 100%.
Thank you.
Because we need somebody that's serious and can do the job. And I'm asking all you people, we can still, even if they vote yes tonight, we're going to go out and get a petition and get 800 signatures, and we're going to get it on the ballot. Because we're going to let the people vote. It's not going to be your vote, we're going to get it on at the people vote. Because, you know, if I have to, I can come out of retirement, 71 years old, I won't run again next year. And you don't want that. Believe me, you don't. But I had my time, so I'm done.
Thank you, Rick.
Comments or questions for Rick? Holly Pierpont. Yeah, sorry.
Holly Pierpont, 333 Vincent Avenue Northeast.
Pick up the mic.
Thank you for allowing me my 3rd opportunity to speak on this topic. I know that I am an endless broken record. You already know my thoughts, so I'm not going to go there. I want to mention that I think that the whole opportunity, however, has highlighted an opportunity to do a better job of informing the public of important decisions like these. There are some really great things that have happened here. Mr. John, you have done a stand-up job with your multiple presentations, all of the research, your ability to answer the tough questions, so that's very much appreciated. And in the past weeks, you know, many of you, I'm happy to hear, have taken the time to sit with our dispatch, to sit over at the Red Center, some of you have done ride-alongs. All of those are really great efforts that I think every citizen here would say they appreciate. However, I think you forgot to sit with the constituents.
And I often hear that it is the citizens' role to seek out information on legislation that's being considered, but I would challenge that idea and remind everyone that it is the role of a public servant to communicate with who they serve. And so over the last 3 days, there have been a handful of citizens circulating petitions, reaching out to their neighbors, their friends, and their family. And most of these people, I'd say 99% of them, probably had no idea. How do you suggest that citizens seek out information on something that they actually don't know about? So whatever happened to the idea that council members are responsible for keeping the constituents informed? Some of you have your own political social media pages dedicated to your roles, and yet you don't post the city agendas on them, much less any information regarding these kinds of important changes. And I'm not aware of anyone that's currently holding any regular town hall style meetings with their constituents to inform them of pending legislation. And with the exception of maybe Councilman Orr, I'm not aware of anyone that routinely walks around in their wards to talk to them and familiarize their neighbors with current events, giving them an opportunity to share their thoughts and concerns. These are the very basic grassroots forms of communication that public servants should be doing on a regular basis. Don't wait for them to come here to talk to you, but rather make sure you are going to them. In this particular example, I kept hearing in previous meetings that not enough people had come here to voice their concerns on the matter, and that you had not had very many people reach out to you by mail or email. Perhaps that is a sign that the majority of your constituents just were not even aware that this was being considered. And in less than a week, a few of us rectified that for you. We've essentially informed the public for you. And this should be the opportunity identified for all of you and a wake-up call regarding how out of touch you might possibly be with your constituents. Why let this get to the point where we could be looking at a possible referendum effort? So again, I would ask that you vote no on this ordinance. Please listen to these voters. It is important to note that among the citizens who are expressing their opposition, as Miriam had mentioned, include former chiefs of police, former chiefs of the fire department, former council persons, people who worked hard for this city. They have strong opinions, and they are valuable opinions. I ask you to consider that the impact that this decision may have on the ability to pass the other items on the ballot this fall. Like Mr. Stalker, I too was a member of the fire station focus group. I too helped to come up with what I think could be the most likely method to pass, so that we can get that beautiful fire station for the people who deserve it. And my fear is that this decision is going to tank all of that work. And we have an election coming up, and after the events of the weekend, I think we can all say voter turnout will probably be off the charts. And I don't think you want to see people looking at 3 items. One is a street levy increase, one is a brand new property tax or a fire station, and the third is a referendum created by your constituents to overturn your decision. I don't think that works well for anyone. So I would just ask you, please give thought to your votes tonight and what could happen after the fact.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from? Thank you, Holly. Okay. Moving on to Ron Bozart.
Ron Bozart, 445 Chapel Hill Drive Northeast. I'm here to echo the sentiments of most of the people in the room. My wife and I have lived here our whole lives. We were born and raised here, so we've been here the biggest part of 7 years. We raised our kids here. I ran squad here for 20 years.
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit?
We raised our kids here. I ran squad here for 20 years. And I oppose this because dispatch is the first line of the safety services. And then people move here because of the schools and the safety services. And to ask us for more money for a building and then get rid of some of the safety services is just not a good look. Not happy with it. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Okay, next up, Bonnie Tuwanger.
West Canton,
My name's Bonnie T. Walner. I live at 1042 East Maple Street. My speech is not very long, but I'm here to voice my opinion against to voice my opposition of the dispatch situation here in North Canton. I believe that some members of this council are more interested in saving money than saving lives and property. If council votes to outsource, you will lose my vote for a new safety center. And when my council person comes up for re-election, I'll vote to outsource her.
Comments or questions for Bonnie? Melanie, roll.
Melanie J. Roll, 308 Portage Street, North Canton. Good evening, all. This evening, I wish to speak to Ordinance 60, 2024, outsourcing the North Canton Dispatch Department. This decision is fraught with controversy. Is it an emotional decision? Yes. Is it a policy decision? Yes. Is it a fiscal decision? Yes. First, as a senior citizen living in this community 53 years, knowing the local police, fire, and dispatch for serving just the North Canton geographic area has been reassuring. Those folks know all the side streets and alleys in the community. Yes, once the call is forwarded to police and fire, the personnel are the same. For me, the initial call is paramount. Does a dispatch employee from the Red Center get the location of the 911 call correct? Yes, this could be put into the emotional category of decision making. But I would stipulate most folks make two important decisions during their lifetimes on emotion: purchasing a home and their various motor vehicles. Second, as far as the policy decision, I haven't heard if anyone has researched other municipalities who have recently outsourced their dispatch services. Have there been disruptions in service? Have their police and fire seen unfavorable outcomes? Have citizens received less than stellar service? I've spoken to a retired former North Canton law enforcement officer. His opposition to joining the Red Center is the service will decline due to the Red Center dispatch personnel not being familiar with the terrain of North Canton. And he said there is a large turnover in dispatch personnel at the Red Center. They cannot retain employees. Also, he is adamant dispatch and police need to be in the same building. Third, the fiscal decision. From the beginning of this controversy, I have told multiple individuals if the fiscal reason is driving this decision, that is not sufficient. Perhaps outsourcing dispatch has been on the horizon for a long time, and a budget crisis is an opportunity to implement this change. I would ask, have any grants been applied for to cover the cost of the consoles, computer hardware, and licensing? Would a local foundation be willing to cover some of these costs to help keep the dispatch department in the city? It seems the cost saving is largely the elimination of salaries and benefits for the unionized dispatch personnel. It is my understanding the 5 positions the city will add are at-will employees. Salaries and benefit packages are the largest outlay of most businesses and governments. Is the city making this decision to outsource dispatch on the backs of unionized personnel. To conclude, I respectfully ask Council to table this legislation and to place on the March 2025 ballot a levy to fund North Canton Dispatch. Let the North Canton voters decide. If the levy fails, then proceed with outsourcing. This would be just a 9-month delay, and this would give the city time to secure grants and foundation funding as well. Please consider this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Next question. Thank you, Molly. Bill Matt.
Bill Knapp, 519, Active Street, Southeast, North Canton. Hi, guys. You all have a major and important decision to make tonight, one that's going to affect the life of not only the dispatchers, but all of us. I have witnessed firsthand over my 30 years in the fire department, North Canton Fire Department, the positive impact of our dispatch center, and as well as their ability to adjust to meet any emergency or dispatching of the fire, police, and EMS. Regionalizing our dispatch center or services, our safety forces have to adjust to another center who may not be able to adjust as our dispatch efficiency does now. Our North Canton dispatchers have great knowledge of our day-to-day operations within our city. Ben Young stated the North Canton Dispatch Center provides a level of non-emergency related services unparalleled by other centers that will inherently change if the center is regionalized. With Red Center, when a large-scale event happens, like what happened on April 1st, we had a big storm went through here in 2023, where multiple communities were affected, our residents will be just another phone call in an overwhelming situation, which would come anytime, day or night. Right now, this type of situation, our dispatchers focus strictly on our residents. Our dispatchers are high-level, well-trained personnel, service to our community, and their dedication to an ever-changing landscape to our residents and safety forces is invaluable. Remember, you have what you paid for. If you want what is a proven dispatch center, you keep what we have. If you want a cheaper cost first, safety second, you go with Red Center. Right now, North Canton has total control over dispatch. With Red Center, now, we'll be just another customer. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Thanks, Bill. Next up, Gary Fogel.
My name is Gary Fogel, I live 1023 Worcester Northwest. I spoke to you once before, and I felt I was just basically talked to us, and you all already made up your minds. I tried to explain to them the need to get accidents and calls, violent calls quickly. I don't think it got through. I had a big list tonight, and I couldn't get it done in 5 minutes. I just mentioned a couple. Very few bank robberies in North Canton, just a couple. I caught one before he made the city limits because our dispatch team called so quick, so fast. Didn't get all the information that they had enough. I went to fight for women who were still getting beat on when I got there. And if that had been your mom or sisters, you'd be horrified if I didn't get there in time. There are some monsters even in North Canton that do stuff like that. Minutes, not minutes, seconds are crucial when you get calls like that.
I've had horrible calls. I've had some that ended up really, really bad and had trouble sleeping. I don't think people realize that. I really don't. I checked a little bit further than some of you did. You're talking up the Red Center and some of these other sources. I talked to police officers that went to them. I went to police chief that went to them. I don't know if anyone named or afraid to go name them private if I had to. But they were not happy with what they got. They had to because the city did what we're trying to do now. Perry Township went to the Red Center, talked to dispatcher, lost their job, said they weren't happy at all, they left. What we're doing is horrible. We fought this 30 years ago before I retired, fought it again. I don't know where the money has to come from. I know because somewhere we stopped buying stupid land, some land we have. We cannot lose our dispatch center. North Canton's known for this. I took a bank robber, that bank robber I told you the cost, took him to jail, Stark County. Went in there in the holding pen, and one in Canton, prisoner said, what are you here for? I said, rob a bank. Prisoner said, where at? I said, North Canton. Got laughed at him, called him a dumbass. And that is true back then. That's that reputation we need yet. We have to have that. We can come up with money somewhere. One of you have to give, one of you for. It's nothing personal. But I will say this. I will never forget before the bullshit on this. I'll never forget. It's nothing personal. But to me, because every friend I have, I'm going to lose a couple of products as we stand here. I'll lose all my friends if I have to, if I can help save people's lives. To me, it was important with a cop. It's just as important. We got to do something on these people. It's not right. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you. Comments or questions for Gary? Thank you. Moving on, John Hearn.
Dawn Hearn, 1200 Grassmere, Southeast. Okay, I don't have any prepared notes. I'm really telling this from my heart. By getting rid of our dispatch, I can only imagine, I'm not a cop, was never a cop or a fireman, but it has to hinder our response time. Now, I know you say it's for the money. Okay, I get it. I've been self-employed my entire adult life, so is my husband. We got a budget. Should have seen it coming though a long time ago. Why are we so critical at this point? Now, you said there was a levy. Why weren't we told that if we didn't vote for that levy, we're going to lose dispatch? Why weren't we told that that was the thing we were going to take away? Now, what I believe is you say you got a big red center, you know what it's going to cost today and this year, maybe next year, don't know, but it's going to keep adding up and it's going to keep costing more. You don't know, in 2 or 3 years we could be paying more than what we're paying now. You have no guarantee. You also have no guarantee of response time. They tell you, oh, we're going to be great. We're going to respond greatly. But they're selling you a service. Of course they're going to say it's nice and great. We know what we got now. We know what we have now. Why would you want to give that away? Why would you want to get rid of that at all? I don't get it. This town is so unique in so many ways, and one of the reasons I do believe that we have the safety we have is because we have that center. I have a program in my phone, and then you guys have said, oh, you ever call 911? I guess of course I've called 911 for many things, but how many questions do you get asked before you get anywhere? You call directly to our dispatch. I can tell them exactly my address. I'm passing out. They're going to be there. I have to say no more words. Somebody broke into my home. I can go whisper my address. They're going to be there. So I'll never have to speak to them again. So getting rid of our local dispatch, we will never get back, ever. And you're going to take community thing away from us, the citizens, of so many of us, standing here with you today, so many signatures who've gone out, and yes, it was only a 3-day thing. And to be honest, I didn't even walk that far. Every single person signed it that I came in contact with. Not one person said no. So there has to be a different way. There has to be another way to find your money. We all have mentioned things that we really are not liking that we're seeing. So the fact is, for me is, if you guys are so short on money now, why would I ever give you more money? Why am I going to give you more money? This is not a depressed town. I don't see a lot of businesses shuttered. I don't see a lot of homes empty. So you're getting money. What are we doing with it? So please, you cannot get rid of our local dispatch because you're short on money. There has to be another way. Any questions?
I'd like to say something. When the levy failed, this was just brought up. It wasn't council or anything. It was given to us. The first thing they cut was snow removal. 3 inches, we heard a lot. And really, we had a mild winter, thank goodness. Saved on a lot of roads and stuff. But this was not brought up to us, you know.
Well, then how did you come with, this is how we could come up with the money?
This was presented by the administration. Presented to us by the administration. And that's what that administration is gone now. You know, you guys know where I stand on it.
Yes, that's
okay.
Yes, thank you.
And, you know, it's just that I just want to make a fair shake. This wasn't one of the things that we came up with as council to say, let's cut this.
Okay, but unfortunately, then you guys got handed this. So is there not any other way? You need to find other ways.
There's many.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I would ask you a question.
No.
No.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up, Ginger Chester.
My name is Ginger Chester. I live at 522 Pershing Avenue, Southeast. I just learned about this. I don't get into politics. When I came to this town, I was a newlywed in 2003, and one of the first things I noticed are the people in this town are so friendly and welcoming. It's not like going south, where they tell you they come and visit, but they don't mean it. Here, people really love each other. And I fell in love with this town, and I fell in love with everything about it, and that includes the dispatch. I've had to use it a couple times. My husband had a stroke. I had a heart attack. Didn't use it for that, but I did for other things, and the response time was unbelievable. I came from a bigger city. We didn't have this hometown, it's a wonderful life kind of atmosphere, and I don't want to lose it. And you don't have a right to take that from us. I just believe we need to look for other ways. You know, I'm not going to reiterate what everybody said. We know that's true. Everything that has been discussed here tonight is logical. It doesn't take an intelligent person to really understand that a child would see this. This is not a good decision, and you need to rethink what you're doing on behalf of the citizens of North Canton. I, for one, want it on the ballot. I want to be able to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Ginger? Thank you. Danielle Chafin.
My name is Danielle Chafin. I'm at 10147 Royalton
attorney for the dispatchers and the police officers here. I said my piece with a lot of this last week. I think there are a couple things that need to be addressed by some misconceptions amongst council. I think it's irresponsible to believe that your dispatchers will go to the Red Center. The Red Center is a pay cut, a significant pay cut. The Red Center is a very different working environment than the local dispatch center is. I think it's irresponsible to believe that the employees, the dedicated employees that you hurt by potentially closing the dispatch center, will continue to work in your police department. I think it's irresponsible for those of you to say that there will be no change in service who have said it. You cannot possibly know that. That would be like me saying I'm going to live to be 100 years old. I have no way of knowing that's true. There will absolutely be a learning curve through this process when it comes to learning how their dispatchers are going to work with our police officers. So that inherently will create a risk. I think it's irresponsible to believe that the Red Center costs will not increase when they hire the staff necessary to cover the calls that come from North Canton. I think it's irresponsible to believe that you know better than your current than the current and former police officers, firefighters, and EMS workers who have told you that this is not a good idea just because you went and did one ride-along and sat in the Red Center for a day. You do not know better than all of them. That is who you should be listening to on this issue. When I spoke last, I talked about North Olmsted, where this exact issue happened. The council voted to close their dispatch center. The public was very upset. And the OPBA led a charge on the referendum to undo council's decision. I'm curious to know if any of you actually looked into that. I know I did have one individual who reached out to me and wanted to learn about that. One thing that I heard during that, though, that really impacted me, and I think all of you should know, is there was an individual who spoke, a police officer. They had a recent critical incident where they were trying to catch an armed robbery suspect who was firing at them. There were multiple officers taking cover, and what that officer said is, knowing my dispatchers and hearing them in my ear is what helped me keep my calm and what helped me go home to my family that day. The Red Center will have over 100 police officers who they will have to dispatch for. There will not be that personal connection that keeps that police officer grounded or that firefighter grounded in a critical incident. You will be losing that. I know that many people in this room have voiced that they do not believe that members of council have their back. But to all of the citizens in here and to those who are not here or who are watching online, know that I personally and our organization has the back of the dispatchers and the police officers that we represent here. And that in turn means we have all of your backs. I have already personally contacted an election attorney, and he agreed to put together the referendum and speak with me 2 days from today. Our organization is going to fund it. We are going to pay for the election attorney to make sure that this process goes right. And through that, I think that there will be real change. What I want those of you that vote tonight to know, that I honestly believe that your vote, if you vote no, is purely ceremonial. Because you already have 700 signatures in front of you. The last governor's election wasn't during a presidential race. There were only 7,500 people who voted in this city, meaning I need 750 ballot signatures to undo your decision. In North Olmsted, we got over 2 times what we needed in a week and a half, with a week and a half to go. So there is no doubt in my mind that voting no tonight, voting yes, let me fix that. Voting to close the dispatch center would be purely ceremonial, and it will be on the ballot whether you like it or not. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, please let me know, because the condescending remarks that I've heard tonight and the other day asking people if they know how something works, I do. I do this for a living. I've done this for 5 years. I've been through this process more than once. So if you do want to speak with me about it, I would be glad to talk to you about it.
Young, thank you for showing us. Besides your homes, what other local communities have you represented?
So specifically, Columbiana started the process of trying to close their dispatch center, and when the public got very mad about it, they stopped. And unfortunately, during that process, the pressure it put on their employees, their most senior dispatchers all left. So I would encourage you to realize that leaving this open and putting your employees in a situation where they don't know if they're gonna have a job in 3 months is having a horrible effect on their psyche, it's having a horrible effect on their family. It will cause you to lose senior people who, honestly, I don't think you're gonna keep 5. And I don't think the rest are going to the Red Center, from what I hear. So please don't say North Canton dispatchers will be at the Red Center. I don't agree with that. Maybe 1, maybe 2, but not 4.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes public speaks. I want to thank everybody for keeping it civil. Much appreciated. Okay, moving on to old business. Liam, would you please read the title of Resolution 52-2024?
A resolution for the submission of the question of a replacement and increased tax levy for the
Here, give me the mic.
A resolution for the submission of the question of a replacement and increased tax levy for the purpose of providing for the general construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and repair of streets, roads, and bridges under ORC Section 5705.19, subsection G, in the city of North Canton, Stark County, Ohio. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the street levy. I'm going to just go ahead and open it up for comments, conversation. I can tell you my personal, so the reason why I wanted to take some extra time was to talk with constituents about it. And I talked to several, and the understanding that I got from them and the feedback that I got was that the street levy would not impact the fire levy. And that was my biggest concern. So having 2 of them where this comes on to collect in 2026 would not directly impact that from their opinion. So I want to share that with them. So any other comments or questions that you guys would like to share?
I agree.
I agree.
Thanks for that. All right, I'm going to make a motion to adopt the reading of Resolution 52-2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And Leah, would you please read the title of ordinance, 60-2024?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to enter into a service agreement with the Regional Emergency Dispatch Center for the purposes of providing emergency dispatching services.
Thank you.
So here we are. All the information has been shared. Administration and Ben has put together a significant report. There's a lot of emotion behind this. A lot of people come out to speak about that. I have to go back and say that the only obstacle to a good business decision is an emotional one. And we have to look at this in many ways. In terms of response time, when the phone is answered, a 911 call, at the sheriff's department, there's a transfer to the North Canton Dispatch. And North Canton Dispatch then gets all the fire and rescue police right away. The Red Center is up to being call will actually be handled faster because it will no longer be a transfer. You can answer at the Red Center, it's a 911 call, fire, police, or EMS will be dispatched. I think that it's important to know that when the radio call goes out to the police, they know where your street is. They know where it is. It's not important that the dispatch know exactly where that house is. What's important is that they get the information correctly and quickly to our fire or EMS or police department. And I think that fear is the emotional one. I'm in support of transferring the answering of those phone calls to the Red Center. We've got significant costs and equipment that have to be upgraded or kept up. Chief Kemp was very instrumental in making sure that we can get the pieces and the parts that we need for ours for the next 2 years, but that is a future expense. This is not a today expense. This is a long-term expense that we're looking at. But more importantly, the safety of our community. Those calls are handled faster. If the number of staff units available, currently we have 2. There's a state law that may require 3, or if our 2 lines are busy, it rolls over to another location. There's 4 stations at the Red Center, plus 2 specific for fire and EMS. They have the equipment, they have the personnel. And I can assure everybody that anybody that sits behind that desk is committed to the service and the safety of our fire, police, and EMS. To say anything less that they think that that's not an important part of their job, I would question you on that. I would think that you need to talk to that individual and say, do you believe that you're not looking out for the safety of our police or fire departments. So I wanted to put that out there. I know it's a tough decision. I know that everybody sitting here has spent a great deal of time. There's, 100 pages at least of reading that took place. There's time that's been spent. So at this point, I think we should open up to questions and comments from the rest.
Okay. Well, this past week I've got a lot of phone calls from people in my ward and out of my ward. I've answered them. I've told them a little bit about it, but we've had probably close to 60 people speak. And I can't think of any, just one person was in favor of it. You people put me in office, and you can take me out of office. So I'll do what my people want. Thanks. I prepared my comments this evening. I tend to wander, so hope you bear with me for the next 45 or 50 minutes. I want to take a moment to thank and acknowledge all those who took the time to call, send an email, or come and speak at a council meeting on this very important issue. It's clear that there is a lot of passion around the issue of emergency service dispatching. I've been contacted by people on both sides. There are people that are simply looking at the bottom line, and there are others that see that there is more to this issue. The people who have asked me to vote no far outweigh those who have asked me to vote yes. That brings me to tonight. Almost all the speakers this evening have spoken against outsourcing our emergency dispatch services, compared to only one who has spoken for outsourcing. We've also been presented with a petition with 726 signatures of people wanting us to retain dispatching here in-house, and there is now a threat of a referendum on this issue. And by the way, I think they will get the required signatures for the referendum, just as the residents in North Olmsted did, and this issue will appear on the ballot. With all that said, I believe that a yes vote tonight is a vote against the wishes of our residents. The conversations I've had and the emails I have received from residents wanting to vote yes all seem to center around cost in dollars. The conversations I've had with people who are asking me to vote no center around the costs, but the cost of these folks are time, the understanding of geography and locations, and a loss of true control over our dispatching. The people who have asked me to vote no range from the average citizen to former police officers. Over the weekend, one of our dear neighbors walked across the street, cane in hand, life alert button hanging from her neck, and asked me to vote no on this issue. She shared a story from a few months back where she fell on her deck and needed help. She was able to reach her phone, thankfully, and it was the reassuring voice of a North Canton dispatcher on the other end that let her know that help was on the way. During the course of these discussions over the past months, I was the first council member to vote no. I was the first to visit our dispatch center. And in my approximately 2 hours there, I witnessed, if memory serves, 1 or 2 911 calls, which, as an aside, is a good thing. We've talked about downtime. Yes, they have downtime, that's good. That means our residents, our neighbors, our family members aren't in need of police, fire, or EMS help at that moment. So 1 to 2 911 calls, but there were countless other visits at the police department window, conversations with officer on the road. To my understanding, and to my understanding, I'm the only member of council to go on a police department ride along with thank Officer King. That was a very exciting evening, so I greatly appreciate it. And I believe we pulled over a couple people that night. And I saw Officer King converse with our dispatchers and the need that he had for the communication that they had with each other, his dependency on that. Lastly, I believe that I'm the only member of council to go on a fire department ride along in an effort to further understand the work that they do in regards to our in-house dispatching, which again, there is a need there. In the end, will the Red Center be able to provide dispatching services should the vote tonight go as it has in the past 2 votes? Yes. And I want to take a moment to thank the Red Center for their hospitality during our visits and for coming to speak here at a previous council meeting. They are fine, dedicated people. This isn't a discussion about them or their dedication, but rather what is right for our city at this moment in time and the will of our residents who we represent. So why am I against outsourcing our dispatch services to the Red Center? I've shared multiple reasons why I'm no vote and had previous discussions, so tonight I will narrow my focus. Tonight, I intend to vote no because outsourcing our dispatch services will make us a customer. We will have no control over future increases in costs, and dispatchers from an outsourced center will never work as closely with our officers as they do now. My thoughts on each of these items. I have said before that if we outsource, not only will we never be able to unring the bell, so to speak, and get dispatch back in-house, but we will forever be a customer. What do I mean about being a customer? In additional discussions here at committee meetings, it was thought that we could get 2 or possibly 3 votes on the board that controls the Red Center. 3 votes would be fantastic, as it would bring us to parity with the 2 largest members of the board, as we would be the 3rd largest. But we learned that we would receive only 1 vote. To me, that makes us a customer and not a true equal partner. As to costs, while being a customer in the voting and decision-making sense, I can see we will be a partner in the paying sense. The cost to operate the Red Center will be divided up amongst member communities based upon population. Costs can go up the same as they do here, or more concerning, if another community leaves, as we have seen happen in the case of Perry Township at the Red Center, costs can go way up. There may be savings now, which I'm not entirely sure we will truly realize, but what about the cost down the road in 5, 10, 15 years? And when I say that dispatchers from an outsourced center will never work as closely as they do with our officers now, I mean proximity-wise. Will our officers grow in understanding the relationship with the Red Center dispatchers and vice versa? Yeah, of course they will. But our officers will never possibly be in the same room as dispatchers should we vote to outsource. A truly perfect scenario happened earlier this year when Officer Schaefer happened to be in our Norcom dispatch center when a 911 call came in from the YMCA about a 15-year-old who collapsed on the basketball floor. Because Officer Schaefer was standing in the dispatch center, he was immediately able to make his way to the YMCA, responding in approximately 90 seconds, saving the teen's life. The hope of this perfect scenario will never play out again if we outsource tonight. As I look to my colleagues seated on both sides of me, I ask you to not only seriously consider these points as reasons to not outsource or dispatch services, but the others we previously discussed as well. I also, more importantly, ask you to listen to the people who have come here and taken time out of their day to speak tonight. When it comes to safety, money or the savings thereof shouldn't be our sole motivation or deciding factor. If money is the sole motivation here, as I said at the last meeting, how long do we look to outsource our police department to the sheriff's department and outsource or combine our fire department with one of the neighboring townships? If money is the true motivation, perhaps we should take the rest of our summer recess, which starts tomorrow, and think about ways to come up with ideas to alter our funding. But tonight, I'm asking you, my council colleagues, to join me in voting no on outsourcing our emergency dispatch services. Thank you to those who spoke tonight and to those who reached out.
So I guess I hear that y'all are asking this to be tabled, and where I am with that is if we table it tonight, I'm never going to vote to bring it back off the table, and you can applaud for that. That's probably a positive thing to all of you, but we're not going to do this. We, as Gary Fogel said, we did this 30 years ago. We did it then several years following that. Now we're doing this. We've put so much time into this, into doing this research. We've found the facts. We've done the time study. So if this is to be tabled, I don't want our staff to go through this again. Not our administration staff with the time, not our police and dispatch with the wondering whether or not they have jobs and what's happening. It's not fair. So if we do move forward with tabling, I just want it to be known, I will not bring it back off. I will not vote on it again. I would never vote to bring this back into consideration. We need to move forward. We need to support our dispatch, give them what they have. I think there are some costs that can be cut. We've seen that. So we're gonna have to make those changes and move forward. So that's where I am.
Thank you for everybody who spoke tonight. It has been a lot of time and effort. I just want to thank the administration. We were tasked with this early January in looking into this. And I've been on council for 10 years, and I think this is the third time that it's been brought up. It's never been brought up to this level. We've never had the data. Can you hear me, please?
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I don't want to take this off. It's never been brought up to this level before with the information that we have and looking at call times. And I think that is a misconception. We have looked at call times. We looked at the Red Center, we looked at CENTCOM and Canton, and looked at the Sheriff's Office. Nobody is missing calls. No one is missing response times from consolidation. We would never make that mistake. And I know that all those entities are not making that mistake on a daily basis. All of you probably travel to 4 different dispatching areas on a daily basis. I don't think that you're concerned if they are getting the right alley. Nothing is on a personal level in that way anymore. Everything is digital. When dispatch receives that call, it is pinged to the officers. We don't rely on our IQ, we rely on digital IQ these days. And that's what we're making sure was not going to be sacrificed. None of us would ever sacrifice the safety of our residents. We have looked at many departments, and we're going to continue to look at departments on how to cut costs. I think that's one of the things that when you're an elected official, and I don't care if it's Jackson or Canton or Alliance, that's the topic that is brought up all the time with government efficiency, and that's what we looked at. And we didn't do it haphazardly. We spent hours and hours in research and looking at other entities and meeting with both chiefs and meeting with other policemen and asking our constituents. I have received emails for and against. And I guess, when I've been able to sit down with people and truly sit down and have a conversation, there is a lot more of those answers that the answers or the questions are answered. And there's a lot more aha moments that people have and say, I didn't realize that. And I guess, Holly, you asked, how do we reach the citizens? It's a problem every single entity faces. If you don't get the repository any longer, and only 20% of our Stark County residents get it, I don't know how you find your information. We live in a society where everyone gets to choose where they get their information. So whether it's on your Facebook groups, which half the time aren't correct information, or whether it's repository, or whether it's WHBC, I don't know where else you can get your information. We try to do a quarterly newsletter where there's information. We put it on the bills, the water bills. You're right, Holly, we can do better at the town, excuse me? Oh, right, but that I don't know how we get to people. Most people don't even answer your doors.
It's not having an
When you're doing that. So it is difficult to get that information out. But a lot of times when people are at the voting booth, it's the first time that they see items on the ballot. So that's the world that we live in. And yes, we are trying to get that information out all the time. And some of you gave us some different ideas that we can try, and we'll continue to do that.
All right. I want to thank everybody for speaking tonight, and everybody that's spoken in the past as well. I want to thank administration. I want to thank Ben, Catherine, Liam, everybody that spent all the time to put together all the research and all the data. It was impressive. Finance as well. Everybody involved. We've been through, I believe this is the 6th meeting now, and to use the word that we've painstakingly debated this, it has been emotional, so it's, we're listening to you, we're looking at our finances. It is a very difficult decision. Definitely not easy. I want to thank police, fire, and dispatch for the time that you spent with all of us, and I want to thank council for all the individual people that went to meet with them as well. That was, everybody went above and beyond, and I believe were very transparent with us, and that was greatly appreciated. This is what I ask. What's that? Oh, okay. Do you want to speak before I finish, or would you?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I'll let Ben go first, then I'll speak. Just
I'll
so
let you
can
speak
have
first.
representation on
Okay.
this side. There you go.
I certainly don't envy the 7 of you. And my sole request would be please make some kind of decision today and let me stop working on this. I think our role is not to set policy. Your role is to set policy. Our role is to answer the questions that you all ask and execute whatever policy you set. And I will say that I have been incredibly proud and amazed at this discussion, that this is the most questions any of you have ever asked me, and as a policy nerd, I have loved digging into them. What I want to address is the question that several of you have brought up, several of the speakers have brought up, of the idea of cut something else. Anything but dispatch, anything but public safety. And I just want to talk a little in answer to that question about a second question that's been asked of how we got here. And when the issue failed in March, which the reason that issue got put on the ballot and why we're in this position in the first place is a much larger conversation about the history of North Canton's faculty. But after that failed, council asked of us what can be cut. And so in April, we brought to you $1.165 million in cuts that you all made that night, April 15th. But you have also made it abundantly clear to us that you all will not support an unbalanced budget next year. And so that means we still have a little bit to go in order to give you all a balanced budget this October. And so the next thing that we pitched to you all was this dispatch question. And if it was a business decision, we'd be done. We would have outsourced it, but we're a public entity. We exist to provide public services. And so it's also a political decision of, do we want to provide this service? And to what level do we want to provide this service? If your decision is that this is a service you absolutely want to provide at the level we currently provide with no cuts, absolutely, that's council's prerogative. But you do need to be aware that something else is going to be coming up. And without trying to get too deep into fund accounting, it's not the whole city budget that we can look at. The water department is self-funding. The sewer department is self-funding. The permits department is self-funding. It's not we can cut from anybody to make up this whole. It's only the general fund. And by far and away, the largest chunk of that general fund, 40% of it, is public safety. The next largest chunk, 19%, is general government. That 1.165 million you all cut in April, $500,000 of it was from that general government bucket. The next piece, 12%, was parks and recreation. Of that 1.16 million you all cut, more than 400,000 of it was from parks and recreation. The next largest is that permits department that self-funds itself off of permit fees. And at that point, we're into departments that are less than 10% of the overall budget. We're real quick getting into small things that seem insignificant, but are really going to impact the community just as much as this dispatch. One of the next ones is the school resource officer program, or street lighting, or the engineering department. It's never going to be an easy decision. Again, I don't envy you. But please be aware that keeping this does not mean the budget conversation is over. We will figure out what the next idea is, and we will bring it to you just as Jamie talked about. Whatever council's wish.
Thank you, Ben. I echo everything Ben said as far as it being such a difficult decision. There's so many personal opinions, emotions, information, sometimes misinformation that's been circulated on this topic. And most of all, a lot of emotions. Our duty as public servants on both sides, they are elected officials down here, these 7. We are the professionals that run the organization, so we are the executive side, they are the legislative side, is to focus on the data and the facts and manage this organization. And it's imperative we make the most prudent decisions for the sustainability of this city. Managing the city means careful allocation of funds. We have to maintain our infrastructure. We have to support public service and safety, provide recreational facilities that everyone wants. You heard we cut $400,000 from that. There's so much everybody wants, and we hear things so often of how things were in the past. And we all know times have changed, and we know this isn't the North Canton that had, and you've heard it so much, the Hoover factory across the street, and we were just blessed with 3,000 jobs and income tax coming over. And we've had to do so much through the years. And we want to provide all of that and have our access to vital services for our residents. But we are challenged on this side, the executive side, with prioritizing spending in a way that reflects the values and needs of the community. And we have to prepare for unseen emergencies and challenges that we do face. So in the beginning of this, so much everyone said this was about money, just dollars. It wasn't. It was about efficiency. And through this process, because all businesses have to work smarter, right? Work efficiently to stay in business. And I think we learned a lot. We were able to see what through the time studies and what we're currently doing, and we went around and heard so much. We went to all 4 centers in the county. We've been able to really look, and we'll continue to look at how we can be the most efficient we can in this department and in all departments. So this does require us to evaluate every line item in the budget. Budget season's coming up, and we will do that. And we'll have to seek more efficiencies, and sometimes we have to make difficult decisions. And I know these decisions are emotional, fraught with emotion, and can be contentious, but tonight we heard from so many of you. It's so great to see everybody come out. And I appreciate everyone remaining very civil on this and having very good civil discourse and your input from the residents and from the council members. And I think this is a collaborative process, right? And through this is how we move forward for the best path for our city. I do want to also please note that Mayor Wilder had a planned trip months in the works. Over 6 months ago, he planned this trip out of state. This was not a planned meeting. They would normally be on break right now. So it's not that he's not here, doesn't want to be here. He would desperately like to be here. He could not unplan a trip that was planned. So that's why he is not here tonight. Thank you again, everybody, for your time.
Gina, would you like to weigh in, or are you okay?
All right. This is what I'm asking for. I'm asking for us to table this. And the reason I'm asking for this is I would like a chance to restructure dispatch, to give them a chance to stand on their own. We've done the due diligence. If it doesn't work, we know what our next step is going to be. We've done that. Administration has done a fantastic job providing us with the avenues for that. If the restructure fails, we could fall back on that at some point in the future. But I'm going to make a motion to table, and with the emphasis of focusing on restructuring.
Second.
We'll keep it open for more discussion before we vote, but that's my motion. So open to discussion.
Then, after spending a lot of time in the fire, the police, and dispatch, you have already even put together different plans for restructuring. And I know we've already started in the fire department and just looking at some different options. Are there some options already available for that?
As far as dispatch goes, yes, in the hundreds of pages of documents we've given you, we have an alternative plan for it. To a point Member Owens has made before. This issue has and will keep coming up unless we take some sort of action to insulate our dispatch center from this conversation recurring. So Liam, cleaning out a box, found that actually when Red Center was created, we were offered the opportunity to join and we said no, back in the 80s. So we've been talking about this since the 1980s. There is absolutely in the documents a proposal of, if you all want to keep it, we have suggestions that it should become its own department, it should be given the opportunity to stand on its own 2 feet, and I know that my write-ups say that right now it's not really financially feasible to become a regional center ourselves, but we can certainly attempt to start laying that groundwork that one day we might get there, because that's the only way we're going to stop having this conversation, is if we become a regional. Otherwise, we'll keep having this conversation forever, especially when the EZNet comes out in 25, and we will be at much greater risk of the county saying, figure it out yourself, and we're going to stop subsidizing them. So to your question, we certainly have ideas. To the chief's letters, though, it does involve cutting the number of staff currently in the dispatch center. And it does involve potentially lowering minimum staffing to 1 instead of 2, because as we've been told, we're not a PSAP and we are allowed to rely on rollover to Stark County. for that coverage.
Those are the tough decisions. I guess I'll just say, that's what I meant when I said those are the tough decisions that will have to be made. When you said a PSAP, we are not a primary service, primary safety answering point. And the rules that come with that, we don't have.
So in this information that the administration provided, it was, if we kept it, what it would look like, or how we could adjust. In the time study, over 50% of the time for second and third shift was spent waiting for the next phone call. I fear that if we make those changes and we cut that staffing, and we look at not having 2 people on, we are looking at service issues. That phone call has to transfer back to another location. Since we're not a primary, then there's another delay. But taking the opportunity now to move to the Red Center would avert that. Putting this on the table doesn't give our dispatch an answer to what's coming next. It leaves them out there in limbo again for this to come up. It either comes off the table in August, the very next meeting, or it dies. And I think that we owe the residents, we owe the dispatch, we owe the fire, we owe EMS, we owe the administration for the work they've done on this to make a decision.
How many people out here work? Okay. Ohio is an at-will state. Do you know if you have a job tomorrow or the next day? When do they usually tell you? They don't give you a 2-week notice. We're going to fire you 2 weeks. No, they don't do that. They come in and do that. So I really, we can't go to the Red Center.
Anybody else? Okay. So my reasoning in making the motion is to give dispatch the chance to stand on its own through restructuring. So it's not something that's going to be brought off the table until after that would be decided. So whether we kill it de facto by putting it here, the reasoning is because I want to stress looking at restructuring and giving them a chance beforehand and following what the constituents want. So my motion remains, I'm going to make a motion to table ordinance 60-2024.
I still second.
We'll do a roll call vote.
Okay. Member Wyrick?
Yes.
Member Stroya?
Yes.
Member Cleister?
Yes.
Member Owens?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member Matheny?
No.
Member Warren?
Yes.
6-1? Yes, have it.
Motion passes 6-1. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody.
That's an answer.
What?
That's still, that's an answer.